And he's like, my coach, Dr. Robeson, we've heard of him before, Winner's Edge. And he's like, you've got to learn to love the drudgery. You've got to learn to love stuffing envelopes. You've got to learn to love going to networking meetings. You've got to learn to love this kind of stuff. And maybe not even love, but just you have to learn that it is required of you, that these are things that have to be done. Because beyond the things that have to be done are the things you get to do. So how do we get to the point where we get to do what we want to do? First of all, you have to go that initial mile. You have to go the first mile. You have to carry the load for the first mile. And in the first mile, when you learn to love what you're doing, then the second mile starts. And that's the mile that's mandated by love. That's where you get to do what you want to do. What the hell's going on out here? Hey, what's up? My name is Dr. James Taylor, and you are watching another episode of Fueled by Spite, or maybe listening to. Probably more popular listen to a podcast and watch. But side note, if you have only been listening, this is also on YouTube. So today I got a good one. I think it's a good one. No, I know it's good. Of course it's a good one. I made it. So today there's a weird poem in a sense. For whatever reason, I memorized the start of it back in like third grade. Ladies and jelly spoons. Ladies and jelly spoons, I come before you to stand behind you to tell you something I know nothing about. Next Thursday, the day after Friday, there will be a ladies meeting for men only. Wear your best clothes if you haven't any. Something. We'll give you a seat to sit on the floor. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody, but it's always stuck in my head. But I have an important message. And I come before you to tell you something you probably know a lot about, or at the very least have heard a lot about. This is something that you will hear and initially be like, yeah, I know. Okay. Well, let's see what you know. Today, I want to talk about going the extra mile. And the reason I want to talk about that is because I got a different perspective on it just recently. From a good friend of mine, Pastor Brian Hall. He's been on a past episode. So I'm going to relay to you some background information. And I'm going to I'm going to assume it to be true. Because it should. It helps the narrative I'm going to attempt to paint. So all roads lead to Rome, right? Or they used to anyway. The Romans built the highway system, the first one. They established mile markers. So you knew how far away Rome was. And back in the day, apparently it was within the Roman Empire, it was mandated that if you were requested to help a soldier carry their load, it was mandated. It was required of you. You were compelled to do so by law. So it's like, hey, my shield's heavy. I got to walk back to Rome. You have to carry this for the next mile, to the next mile marker. And that was law. That's you had to. But every now and then, a soldier would run across somebody who they were mandated to follow the first mile. And by the time they got to the mile marker, they felt compelled to go the extra mile, to go the second mile. So if a man is to walk with you for a mile, but chooses to walk 2, walk with that man. Go the extra mile. And part of you, okay, yeah, go the extra mile, do the extra work. But what does that look like? I feel in putting this together, I feel like a lot of us start to, myself included, start to view the first mile as the extra mile. We do the stuff that we are mandated to do, but because we don't necessarily want to do it, those things start to feel like we are going above and beyond, like we are going the extra mile, not because we want to, but because we have to. So if I'm doing something I don't want to do, that must mean I'm going above and beyond what is required of me, what is mandated of me. And therein lies the problem. Because the first mile is the mile that is mandated. The first mile is the mile that is required. The first mile is the mile that sucks. I don't know. If you are watching this on YouTube, you could probably tell that I don't run a whole lot. So I have never experienced, to the best of my knowledge, a runner's high. But the reason being, I'm more of a pick things up, put them back down kind of guy. The reason being that I have never experienced the runner's high is because the runner's high, in my experience, and probably an experience of actual runners, never comes on the first mile. First mile is mandated by law. The second mile, the extra mile, if you will, is mandated by love. The second mile is where we do what we want to do, where we do what we like to do. First mile, we do what we have to do. And some of the have to stuff can be draining. Some of the have to stuff can suck. Some of the have to stuff, that first mile stuff, is stuff that we do so often and so routinely and so repeatedly, it becomes burdensome and cumbersome. And it becomes a point where we don't want to do it anymore. But then when we do it, you guys ever seen the episode of Friends? Way to sidestep the doo-doo comment. Hardest thing I ever did. When we do it, it becomes, we think we're doing something special. We think we're doing something extra. We think we're on the second mile when we're only on the first mile. Now, what is the first mile? What is the mandated mile? What is the stuff that we have to do? It's going to work. It's doing paperwork. It's going to the gym. It's eating right. For some people, it's spending time with their kids or their spouse it's the regular stuff. It's the stuff we do every day, but it becomes mundane, and it becomes expected. And in so becoming expected, it becomes cumbersome. So then we pat ourselves on the back for doing what we're supposed to do. It's like a Chris Rock skit. I don't beat my kids. Motherfucker, you're not supposed to beat your kids. You don't get it's the participation trophy, if you will. You're not supposed to beat your kids. You're supposed to be a good dad or a good husband or a good spouse. You're supposed to show up to work. You're supposed to do what is asked of you and what is required of you to be a functioning and contributing member of society. That's the bare minimum. And we get so caught up in doing the bare minimum that we think we're going the extra mile when all we're doing is the stuff we're mandated to do. The stuff we love to do is beyond that. I just finished an interview that's going to pop up here with a guy who's got his 9 to 5. He's an engineer. He does great and amazing work and clocks in 40 or 50 hours a week or 60, depending on the week. But then he's got a side hustle. And I asked him, like, when do you do that? His answer was great. He goes, at night. That's the extra mile. He does his 9 to 5. He clocks in and clocks out to provide for his family, to provide for his husbandly duties and fatherly duties. But then he goes beyond at night to go the extra mile. How do we go the extra mile? Well, the first thing we have to do what is mandated of us. We have to do what is required of us. We have to do, this has come up before. We have to take part in the drudgery. Man, that's a good word. That struck me the first time I heard it was years ago, and it was starting to practice. And he's like, my coach, Dr. Robeson, we've heard of him before, Winner's Edge. And he's like, you've got to learn to love the drudgery. You've got to learn to love stuffing envelopes. You've got to learn to love going to networking meetings. You've got to learn to love this kind of stuff. And maybe not even love, but just you have to learn that it is required of you, that these are things that have to be done. Because beyond the things that have to be done are the things you get to do. So how do we get to the point where we get to do what we want to do. First of all, you have to go that initial mile. You have to go the first mile. You have to carry the load for the first mile. And in the first mile, when you learn to love what you're doing, then the second mile starts. And that's the mile that's mandated by love. That's where you get to do what you want to do. So how do we go the extra mile? I've got 10 things for you. Rack the old dome. And again, some of these are going to be obvious, but they're so obvious that we don't even do them. It's that whole thing like where if you, don't quote me on these numbers, but it's like, we've all heard the thing like, hey, if you do one thing for 10 minutes a day, but you do it every day, then in 10 years, you'll be a master. So these are all little things to provide value beyond what is expected of you, to provide value what is beyond mandated of you, to provide value in that second mile, in that extra mile. Number one, be proactive. Anticipate things. One of the easiest ways to be proactive is just show up early. It's so stupid, but show up early. Don't show up on time. This is totally cliche. If you're on time, you're late. But at the same time, time. Be proactive. Show up early. Even 5 minutes. 5 minutes early. I mean, and this might be the manager in me, the boss in me, but if your shift starts at 8 and you walk in the door at 8, you are late. Did not intend for that to rhyme, but I'm glad it did. Number 2, personalize. Make things personalized. Make them you. We have to learn how to do things. We have to learn the standard operating procedure. But in dealing with people, that standard operating procedure at the beginning will feel cold and robotic, but you have to get that down. That's the first mile. But when you get that thing down, whatever that thing is, then you can personalize it. Then you can make it you. Then it becomes authentic. Then it becomes a second mile activity. Number 3, continuous learning. And this is where that 15 minutes a day really comes into play. I try to keep these podcasts somewhere around 20 to 30 minutes. So heck, you can listen to half of it and then listen to the other half the following day. There's your 15 minutes, 2 days in a row. But it's just 15 minutes. If you got kids, very few of you go to bed when your kids go to bed. You put your kids to bed and then you've got an hour or so. What do you do with the hour after your kids go to bed? Or you could wake up an hour earlier in the day. What can you do with an extra hour? Take a half an hour to rise, get your bearings, take your morning constitutional, and give yourself 15 minutes a day for learning. You can fit 15 minutes in everywhere. Check your screen time. What does your screen time say? How much screen time do you put in a day? There's where you're losing your 15 minutes. Offer help without being asked. This one, for me personally, this one is rather difficult because what you will do is you'll say, "Hey, can I help you?" And they'll say no. Because that's our MO. Like I can do it on my own. Okay. But no, for real, like, what can I help you with? Offer help. That's part of being proactive. That's part of going that extra mile, that second mile. Follow up. Also difficult for me. Hell, that's just asking twice. Can I help you? No, I'm good. Hey, but are you sure? Like I can take this load off of you. Follow up. Reply to that text. Even if that reply is simply, got it. Cool. If you provide a good or a service, follow up afterwards. Hey, how's this working out for you? Someone asked for advice. That's a service, even if it's a friend. Did you try that? Did you try that thing that we talked about? Be available, be accessible. This is also rather hard for me because I provide a service as a chiropractor. Hell, I provide a service as a podcast host. Be available and be accessible. I'm really available and really accessible from 8:30 to noon and 3 to 6. Not too accessible after 6. As I'm saying this, I'm remembering I got a couple of texts I got to reply to. I got to follow up. Be accessible. That's what this is. That's what this podcast is. This is an exercise in being more accessible. Show appreciation. Told somebody this the other day. I got this remarkable here. I've got these things that I do every single day. And part of the things is they got check boxes, or these things that I completed. Did I read? Did I meditate? Did I review my goals? I have a checkbox on there that says compliment somebody. Just send a happy word. Show appreciation. Seek feedback. We're all seeking feedback. There's a second mile to this one in and of itself, and then act on it. Nothing bothers me more than people who ask my advice and then don't take it. Wasted my time and your time, but more importantly, my time. Wasted my time, my brain power, my bandwidth, my energy to ask for my opinion or my advice on something, and then you don't take it. So seek advice and then act on it. Action is the hard part with this one, because it might not seem like good advice. It might not seem like pertinent advice at the time, but just because it's a bad idea on the surface doesn't mean it should be discarded. Maybe not acted upon at that moment, but acting upon an idea can certainly mean just reviewing it. What does it look like if this worked? Not why won't this work, but what if this did work? It feels not right now. What would make it feel right? Act on it. Last thing on the list, and this plies right into that 15 minutes. Cultivate a positive attitude. Let me say it again. Cultivate a positive attitude. And this one is incredibly difficult because this one needs continuity. This one needs consistency. Part of the thing that I do every morning is I got this thing. It's called morning pages. I fill up a page of positive mental attitude things. And I'll tell you the rules right now. Let's see here. First thing in the morning pages. Number one, you fill up an entire page of just stream of consciousness writing. And the rules are fill the entire page. Like I said, stream of consciousness, no negative speak, commit to action, speak as if it has already happened. Cultivate a positive mental attitude. These are how we go the extra mile. These are how we provide more value. These are how we over deliver, but under promise. Under promise and over deliver. Yeah. This is how you become a second miler. This is how you succeed. This is how you advance. This is how you get beyond the things that you are mandated to do and get to the things that are motivated by love. Because the crappy part about love is you got to go through some shit to get it. Oh, man. That was deep. That was awesome. God, I'm getting really good at this stuff, you guys. To review, how to go the extra mile, how to become a second miler, how to provide more value. Be proactive, anticipate, show up on time, personalize, make it you, make it authentic. But to do that, you have to do the crappy thing first. This is all the stuff you get to love to do, but you have to go through the stuff you don't love to do. Be proactive, personalize it, continuous learning, offer help without being asked, follow up, be available and accessible, show appreciation, seek feedback, and act on it. Cultivate a positive attitude. And the best thing about this is when you're doing that first mile, doing the stuff you don't want to do, then you get to this stuff that you love to do that's motivated by love. This stuff will become first mile stuff. This stuff will become habit. And then you will find stuff in the third mile because the second mile is your new first. And now the third becomes your new second. This is, to steal a line from my wife. We've all heard of it before. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. She goes, nobody wants to eat a cow, but everyone wants to eat a steak. Well, not everyone, but whatever. You get the point. She said that the other day. Wow, that's way better. She goes, yeah, because nobody fucking eats elephants, but we eat steak. We're not going to eat a cow, but I'll eat a steak. To get that steak on your plate, that's second mile stuff, especially if it's a really good steak, because I'm not butchering a cow. I don't know how, and I ain't got the time. Be a second miler. That's how you go the extra mile. That's how you succeed, by doing more than what is expected of you in every sense of the word, doing more than what is expected of you in life, in love, in career, in money, in happiness. These are second mile things. And they seem obvious on the surface, but sit down, write down these 10 things. I'm going to say it again. Be proactive, personalize, continuous learning, offer help without being asked, follow up, be available and accessible, show appreciation, seek feedback and act on it, cultivate a positive mental attitude. Write those things down and find out, where are you doing the things that are actually just mandated tasks, but you've done them so often that they feel like second mile stuff. Where can we expand upon that? I need to hear this. I hope you needed to hear this. I hope this provided value for you. Because once again, you will learn more here by accident than elsewhere by design. I promise you that. Sometimes we might need to go back and review it a little bit. Before this, you could have, at the very least, said that you're uninformed. You might have been an idiot, but at least now you can no longer say that you're uninformed. Another episode of Fueled by Spite. This was solid. This was jam-packed. This might be the most condensed episode I've done so far, and possibly the most valuable. Like it, share it with other people. Because if they're going to walk that second mile with you, they're the people that you want to walk with you for the third mile. Fueled by Spite. Out.